Inside the homes of Jesus' time, the hidden genius of ancient life, the homes during Jesus' time were constructed from materials you'd never consider using for flooring today. Inside, the entire household operated with just 4 essential pieces of furniture. And the distinction between a wealthy and a poor home could mean the difference between waking up alive or not the next morning. For 2 millennia, we've pictured Jesus entering homes that resembled primitive versions of our own. But when you truly understand the materials these homes were actually made from, how families organized their lives without closets or separate rooms, what tools they utilized for cooking, eating, and sleeping, and how a subtle difference in construction could determine survival during the cold desert nights, you'll realize that daily life 2,000 years ago functioned with such ingenuity that even the simplest details within the Gospels take on a completely new significance. Prepare to step inside these houses and witness how the families Jesus knew actually lived. The floor beneath his feet, Joseph, would rise early and step barefoot onto the very floor where he slept, ate, and practiced his carpentry. It consisted of packed earth, combined with lime and straw. When dried, it became smooth and solid, much like concrete, lasting for decades without cracking or wearing away. The floor of a house in Nazareth had 2 levels. The lower area, approximately a half-meter below the entrance, provided shelter for the family's animals, perhaps a goat or a few sheep. Jesus grew up hearing their gentle chewing beneath his feet at night. Their body heat warmed the family throughout the winter months. The upper level served as the family's living space. It was there they ate, worked, slept, and welcomed guests. There were no walls dividing the rooms. The whole house was essentially one single space. During the day, Joseph would spread out his carpenter's tools across the floor, saws, chisels, squares, working cross-legged as he shaped wood for doors, windows, and plows. Mary would prepare meals in one corner, using a circle of stones to contain the fire. She would grind grain on a hollow stone, knead bread, and cook stews in clay pots. At night, the family unrolled woven straw mats and slept side by side on the same floor, without beds, mattresses, or pillows as we know them today. The mats were the most versatile items in the house. By morning, they transformed into seats or tables. By afternoon, a workspace for sewing or weaving. When worn, each mat was repaired strand by strand. When too old, it became a doormat by the entrance. Jesus learned from a young age to utilize every object for multiple purposes. Nothing was wasted. Everything had meaning. This simplicity wasn't poverty, it was practical wisdom. Families could reorganize the entire house in minutes. Visitors arrived, roll out extra mats. Needed workspace? Clear the floor. Celebration night? The same floor became a dance hall. Today, we might take hours to rearrange a single room. They could do it in seconds. The floor also served as storage. Large clay jars were half buried beneath it, holding grain, oil, water, and wine, a sort of underground pantry. They were sealed so tightly that food remained fresh for months without refrigeration. Women swept daily with brooms made of dried branches, not so much to remove dust, as there was little in Palestine's dry air, but to maintain a smooth surface, free of scraps that could attract insects or injure bare feet. That simple floor of earth and lime was where Jesus took his first steps, where he observed Joseph at work, where he listened to Mary read from the scriptures. Walls that spoke the walls of these homes held secrets even more fascinating. Within just a half-meter of thickness, they stored everything a family owned. Palestinian walls weren't simply for support, they were ingenious storage systems, designed with niches built right into them during construction. Masons intentionally left small openings at various heights, each serving a specific purpose. Upper niches held valuables, coins, simple jewelry, or scrolls of sacred text, safe from children and potential thieves. Middle niches kept daily items, oil lamps, ceramic bowls, knives, and wooden spoons. Lower niches stored heavy tools, extra jars, and baskets. It was an early form of built-in shelving, saving space and money. Stone hooks, carved directly into the walls, held clothes, ropes, fishing nets, and tools. Everything had its designated place. Objects were always kept in the same niche so anyone could locate them, even in complete darkness. The thick walls provided more than just storage. They supported the roof, insulated the house, and acted as a natural air conditioning system. During the day, the stones absorbed heat. By night, they released it slowly, maintaining a stable interior temperature. In summer, the process reversed. The heat remained outside, while the room stayed cool. Constructing such walls required skilled masons. Poor families, unable to afford them, built thinner walls, or carved niches later, which weakened the structure. Wealthier families hired master builders who shaped decorative, rounded niches with fine finishing touches. Each wall revealed a story. Religious families kept Torah scrolls wrapped carefully in cloth. Merchants stored scales, weights, and coins from distant lands. Craftsmen organized their specialized tools by trade. Jesus knew this system intimately. He knew precisely where every one of Joseph's tools was kept. He grew up valuing order and function, lessons that later resonated in his parables. When he spoke of houses built on rock or treasures stored safely, he was describing realities that everyone understood. The roof. Heaven above the home above those clever walls lay an even more revolutionary idea, the flat roof. Peter woke up on the roof of the house where he was staying, and it was there that he received a vision that forever altered Christianity. That was no mere coincidence. Roofs were the quietest, most private, and most elevated spaces in Palestinian homes, perfect for prayer and communion with God. Unlike our pitched roofs, theirs were completely flat, essentially an extra floor constantly used by the family. Thick beams of wood stretched from wall to wall, layered with smaller branches, then straw, leaves, and finally a thick coat of mud mixed with lime. When dry, this formed a hard, waterproof surface able to bear the weight of several people walking or even dancing on top. In summer, families slept on the roof. It was cooler, breezy, and under a blanket of stars. Every evening they carried mats, blankets, and pillows up narrow, steep outdoor stairs that lacked handrails. Children learned to climb like cats. During the day, the roof became a workspace. Women laid out clothes to dry, wove carpets, or sewed garments. Men repaired tools, tanned leather, or carved wood under the sunlight. During harvests, grains and fruits were spread out to dry. At night, the roof transformed into a social space. Neighbors visited each other by rooftop, leaping across adjacent homes without ever touching the street, creating an aerial network of community. During religious feasts, families gathered there to sing, tell stories, and pass down traditions to their children. Roofs also served as watchtowers. Adults kept a watchful eye on children playing below or on caravans arriving from afar. In Mark 2, when 4 men couldn't reach Jesus through the crowd, they opened the roof and lowered the paralyzed man down. This was possible because these roofs could be easily dismantled and rebuilt. Just remove a few dried layers, pull aside branches, and patch it up afterward. Jesus surely spent a great deal of time on the roof of his house in Nazareth praying, meditating, observing the world below. As an adult, he even used rooftops as natural pulpits to preach to the multitudes. For objects that defined a home, Mary, with 7 children, possessed only 4 household objects, yet she managed meals, work, and rest for them all. Woven straw mats, 1 per person, custom-made. Children's mats were smaller and lighter. Rolled up by day, spread out by night, they served as beds, tables, and workspaces. Large clay jars, 5 to 8 per family, each designated for a specific food: wheat, barley, lentils, oil, wine, or water. Half buried in the ground and sealed with heavy stone lids, they kept food fresh for months. Oil lamps, small ceramic vessels burning olive oil throughout the night. Homes were never in complete darkness. A small flame always remained for safety. The brazier, a large metal bowl used for cooking and heating, moved wherever needed throughout the year. That was all. 4 types of objects met every domestic need. For sitting, they used cloth cushions filled with straw or wool, stacked in corners when not in use. For eating, simple ceramic bowls and wooden spoons, but most food was eaten by hand, using bread as a scoop. For sleeping, wool blankets woven at home, also used as extra clothing or temporary partitions for privacy. This radical simplicity had immense advantages. Homes could be rearranged in mere minutes. Guests arrived, extra mats. Celebration, clear the space. Someone ill, create isolation without the need to move heavy furniture. Cleaning took minutes. Moving house took a single trip. Jesus grew up in this environment of functional simplicity, learning that it was possible to live well with very little, as long as every object served a purpose. This deeply influenced his later teachings about detachment from possessions and focusing on what truly matters. Rich versus poor, the hidden divide. But there was a sharp contrast between how the rich and the poor applied these same domestic principles. 2 identical houses on the same street, same size, same layout, yet one family lived with dignity and safety, while the other lived in fear and chronic illness. The divide was hidden in the subtle details. Mortar quality, Wealthy families could afford lime mixed with fine sand, making it waterproof for decades. Poor families used ordinary mud and straw. Within a few years, walls leaked and mold spread, bringing dampness and disease. Roof beams. The rich used oak or cedar, dense wood that lasted generations. The poor used pine branches or reused timber that bent and cracked under the heavy clay roof, leading to leaks and eventual collapse. Storage jars. The rich owned thick, well-sealed jars crafted by professional potters. Food stayed fresh for years. The poor had thin, uneven jars that cracked easily or let in insects, resulting in food spoilage. Oil lamps. Wealthy homes glowed with several bronze or fine ceramic lamps burning pure olive oil, providing clear, smokeless light. The poor had only one or two crude lamps using cheap oil mixed with animal fat, producing dim, smoky light that irritated the eyes and lungs. Yet the cruelest difference was food security. Rich families stocked supplies for years. Poor families survived month to month. A bad harvest meant famine. They sold tools, then furniture, until nothing was left. Jesus knew both worlds. His carpenter family belonged to the lower middle class, neither wealthy nor destitute, but always aware of how easily they could slip into poverty. That's why his parables about money and daily life are so precise. He understood what every domestic detail meant for a family's survival. The parable of the 10 virgins mirrors the contrast between those who could afford extra oil and those who lived on the edge. The parable of the rich man and Lazarus exposes the social gulf that began inside homes in the quality of walls, food, and the overall dignity of living conditions. Jesus grew up seeing how small economic differences transformed into vast divides in health, comfort, and hope. That experience shaped his compassion for the poor and his challenge to systems that perpetuated inequality. If you believe Jesus truly understands what it means to live with financial hardship because he grew up in a family of humble workers, write in the comments. He knows. And now, click on the video on your screen to discover what Jesus taught in the parable of the 10 virgins of